September 2, 1975 marked the end of World War II when the Allied power declared victory, but by that time, most of Europe was in ruins. While all the European economies had suffered a major hit, Germany, for obvious reasons, was most affected. German housing stock was reduced by 20%. Food production was half of what the country had been producing before the war, and the German currency was literally worthless. The German populace had to resort to the barter system to keep things going. To make matters worse, most of the population between the ages of 18 and 35 who could contribute to rebuilding were either killed or severely injured. Fast forward to the 21st century, and you see Germany as a major world player that plays a decisive role in the European Union and other world affairs. As of 2023, Germany's GDP is more than 4.26 trillion USD, with a per capita GDP of more than $51,000. It now ranks fourth in the largest world economies, and its population has the 19th highest purchasing power in the world. The country is also home to some of the world's largest pharmaceuticals, electronics, and automotive companies. How Germany went from using an obsolete economic system as barter to one of the largest world economies is a case study that is often termed an economic miracle, and rightly so. It is a true rags to riches story, one which we will discuss in this video. Walter Eucken, the man who put the Germany back on the path of growth. Germany's economic rebirth cannot be explained without Walter Eucken, the man responsible for putting Germany back on the path of growth. Eucken was the son of Rudolf Christoph Eucken, a Nobel Prize winner for his contribution to literature. Instead of continuing his father's profession, Walter opted for economics at the now famous University of Bonn. After completing his education, he started teaching at his alma mater and soon moved to the University of Freiburg, another internationally recognized university. Mind you, it was all happening while Hitler held power, and the University of Freiburg was one of those very few places where people opposing Hitler could express their views. In addition to expressing opposition to the Nazi Party, Walter started working on new economic theories, later known as the social free market. Walter was a staunch supporter of the free market and capitalism. He believed the government's involvement in the economy should be limited to mere regulation to ensure the system works for as many people as possible. The regulation that the government could enforce to make the system work included preventing cartel monopolies and forming a large social welfare system to support marginalized communities and individuals. The theory of the free market also emphasized the formation of a strong and independent central bank to focus on monetary policies so the prices remain stable. Experts believe the central bank portrayed by Walter was largely inspired by Milton Friedman, a famous American economist. These plans may sound perfectly normal and rational to you now, but imagine these were brought forward about the same time when much of the capitalistic world was experiencing a massive economic depression. Most people at that time believed socialism was the only correct answer to the economic problem, but Walter had other plans, and fortunately, they worked. Soon after the creation of West Germany, the Allied power had to make major economic decisions, and some prominent lawmakers still proposed having a system that maintained government control over the market. However, Ludwig Erhard, a protege of Eucken, successfully got the decision-makers on his side and started implementing Eucken's policies. New German currency. By the end of World War II, German currency had lost its value, and thus the people had to resort to the barter system. It was a major challenge in reviving the German economy, and Erhard took the challenge head-on and began working on a new currency. He developed a new currency with the support of Allied power to replace the remnant of the past, known as the Deutsche Mark. The currency was officially introduced on June 20, 1948. In hindsight, the decision may look incredible, but at that time, it was rather scary as it would reduce the amount of currency available to the public by 93%. It meant the little wealth the German government, companies, and its populace held would have zero value. Despite the criticism and reservations of stakeholders, Erhard went on with a plan and introduced the currency on June 20, 1948. Erhard also proposed several tax cuts to promote businesses and encourage spending. As controversial as it may seem, Erhard removed all sorts of price controls right after announcing the new currency. In fact, he was called upon by General Lucius Clay, a U.S. official, to explain the motives of his move. Clay conveyed the concerns of his advisors, but Erhard responded with words that would go into the history books, Don't listen to them, General. My advisors tell me the same thing, he said, and it is precisely what he did and proved everyone wrong. It was a new dawn for Germany. Shops became stocked with goods as people realized the new money held some value. It also constricted the black market, and the barter system was finally put to rest. As soon as the population received the incentive to work again, the sense of Germany's industriousness also came back. Before the radical steps, the German population missed 9.5 hours a week of work to look for food and other necessities. The mentioned figure shrunk to 4.2 hours per week as soon as the new currency was introduced. Industrial production also rose to 80% of its level in 1936. This single step of introducing a new currency proved instrumental in putting Germany back on its growth path. The Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan is a central element in the whole debate of rebuilding Germany. Some believe it had no impact on the growth of Germany, while others attribute the entirety of German growth to the Marshall Plan. To be honest, the truth meets somewhere in the middle. It is certainly not the only factor that helped Germany to fame, but it had an important role to play. The Marshall Plan was essentially a fund set up by the US for the European nations affected by the war. Fund's total value was about $15 billion, about $173 billion in today's world. This fund was supposed to be distributed among all the countries affected by the war, but a large chunk went to the UK. Germany received about $2 billion from the fund, which played some role in Germany's regrowth. Most people do not consider it impactful in Germany's rebirth because while other countries received about the same or more amount from the fund, their growth was slower than Germany's. Germany maintained higher growth despite its reparations and restitution payments. Furthermore, Germany also had to pay $2.4 billion annually to the Allied powers as DAM 7.2. Although it meant Germany did not have to spend on defense, the fact that such a large chunk of the money was being drained out of the system and the country still managed the growth is simply incredible. Reunification of Germany. The reunification of Germany is a topic that deserves a whole other video, but let's keep this short for now and understand its role in the economic growth of Germany. You see, while West Germany was being managed and governed by the Allied powers, the eastern part was governed by the Soviet Union and followed communist policies. Unfortunately, those policies did not work, and by the start of the 1980s, a stark contrast between the economic conditions of the two sides was apparent. While West Germany was moving more and more towards a free market, the eastern part continued communist policies. The people on the western side were far more prosperous, whereas those on the other end failed to make ends meet. The populace from the eastern side started immigrating to the western part to better the financial conditions, something that the Soviet Union tried to control but putting in strict measures. The public pressure on the Soviet Union was increasing, and the government finally gave in on 9 November 1989 and formally started the process of Germany's unification. After the reunification, an economic merger took place between the two countries, which replaced the Eastern German mark with the West German Deutsche Mark. The step was met with little to no resistance as much of the Eastern population already believed in the credibility of the Western currency. Furthermore, the Eastern part was also brought under the economic policies of the Western part, and both sides were finally put on the path of economic growth. Industrialization and free trade contributed to the economy, which finally put the country on the path of regaining the status of major power player in world affairs. Obviously, there is a lot more that went on to make Germany what it is today, but this story tells about the critical decisions Germany took right after the World War, enabling it to regain its lost glory. We hope this has been fun and informational. Let us know what you think of it down below. As always, we will see you at the next one.